Hey YouTube, I'm Lucky, and today I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks if you're just coming to Destiny 2 from cross-save from console to PC. There's so much to learn, there's so much to catch up on if you've been gone, and I have been doing this for a little over a year now, and I want to give you guys the fast route to getting comfortable and getting acclimated to PC. So the first thing you want to do is open up your settings, go in here and adjust your settings to whatever you find to be comfortable. Mouse sensitivity, this is an important one. Your look sensitivity could be anything. It could be 100, it could be 5, it could be 1. It's also important that you compare this to your DPI. So an extremely low look sensitivity isn't that big a deal if you have a really high DPI or vice versa. So make sure that you adjust this look sensitivity to your DPI and you find a good sensitivity that's for you. If you're coming from console, you're used to a very slow turn speed. Thumbsticks on a controller turn very, very slow. And so you're going to want to adjust into PC gameplay and mouse and keyboard gameplay by having a very low sensitivity. It's also much more beneficial for excellent aim to have low sensitivity. There are some crackheads out there that play on really high sensitivity and play really well, but the majority of top tier players in PvP across all games are playing on pretty low sensitivity with a pretty big mouse pad. That's the general consensus. If you have an ADS modifier, make sure that this is either 1.0 or less. There are some maniacs out there that put this above 1.0. I have no clue why you would do that. I have no clue why you would want to aim down sights and have your sensitivity get even more slippery. That's just to each their own, I guess. If you really like that, go for it. But I would highly recommend do 1.0 or less if you're going to do that. And that's only you're lowering your look sensitivity so that you could have a little more precise aim. And this is definitely helpful if you're trying to polish up and land those shots a little bit more clean or crispier. Don't invert your look unless you're trying to go cross-eyed. Aim smoothing, turn that off. If you do want to use a controller, it's totally there for you. Windows 10 fully supports using a controller, so if you want to do it, go ahead. But I would highly recommend learning mouse and keyboard. Destiny 2 is actually the best game in the world for learning mouse and keyboard. I didn't know any mouse and keyboard. I had played controller my entire life, and when I came over to Destiny 2, I was a complete noob. I didn't even know how to move. I was walking into walls and stuff. I was doing all kinds of newbie stuff. I couldn't do anything. I had no mechanical movement. My aim was absolutely terrible all over the place. It was bad. But because Destiny 2 has PvE and the PvE is the exact same as the PvP, this is the best game for this. All you have to do is just simply load up your director, go into strikes, go into patrols, go into anything, and you by playing in PvE, you will get comfortable mechanically with mouse and keyboard. You'll be able to navigate through maps, slide, walk through doors, look around, turn around, do whatever you need to do. You can learn everything in PvE mechanically, and then you can slowly transition into taking that into PvP because it's going to be really rough. I'm going to be honest with you, it's going to be rough at first. Quick play is not that sweaty. It depends on your skill level, but with time, you're going to see, and as you go into the Crucible, if you go into Comp, or if you go into Rumble, or wherever you go, you'll see that it's definitely really, really tough because aiming is so much different. Your right thumbstick on a controller is the same equivalent as the mouse you're using. However, with a mouse, you have so much more freedom of movement and so much more control, and there's no aim assist, which means that if you miss a shot, you miss, and there's no, the game will not just give you the shot for free as easily because there's no aim assist. And so it's really, really tough to learn at first, but it's definitely worth taking the time to learn. And Destiny 2 is the best game. I can't stress this enough. This is the best game to learn mouse and keyboard. So take your time and learn it. I'll come back to that a little bit more at the end. Key mapping. One thing that I'm going to stress, especially with key mapping, is you can have anything you like in here, but one thing that's really important is to have your class ability not be on your WASD fingers. So if you put your left hand on your keyboard and on the WASD, you can see there's 3 fingers that push WASD. And you do not want your class ability to be used by one of those. Like, you don't want the letter C or the letter Z or Q or E to be class ability, generally speaking. And the reason why is that you won't be able to use your class ability and go that direction comfortably. Like, if I want to, like, if I'm in this doorway right here, and I want to go to the left right now, and my class ability is Z, then I'm not going to be able to push A and Z at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So what I have done is I put my class ability on my mouse button, so that way I can use my class ability and go that direction. If you don't do that, then you'll always go backwards with your Hunter class ability. This does not apply to Warlock. This does not apply to Titan. So if you don't play Hunter at all, then I guess you'll be fine. But eventually you will end up playing Hunter, and you'll find it really, really awkward that you can't use your class ability and head a certain direction if you put your class ability on a weird keybind. So do yourself a favor. I had to change this later on, and then I had to relearn the muscle memory. Do yourself a favor and make sure that your class ability keybind is not on the WASD fingers. Pretty much other than that, you can set things however you want. Destiny doesn't have a ton of keybinds. It's not like Fortnite, and so you can definitely customize things and get pretty weird with it. I know people that have like all their keybinds on their mouse because they have like an MMO mouse. I would highly recommend not to do that, but teach their own. If you really like doing that, it's not really that big a deal. The next thing I'll go down to is video, and I use a 1080 monitor that has 240 hertz, and I would recommend not using VSync at all. VSync is terrible. VSync is your enemy. You hate VSync. VSync is bad. Don't turn that off no matter what. Turn that off. Cap your frame rate at whatever your monitor is. You might as well. I put mine at 239 even though mine's 240. Someone told me for some reason to do that, and I don't know. I just like it. And so I would recommend capping your frame rate at whatever your monitor's hertz rate is, because then you're not overworking the CPU or whatever. I'm not a big fancy I'm not an expert on computer processing and such, but you might as well, because if your monitor can only output, like for example, my monitor can only output 240 hertz, there's no need for me to go above 240. Thankfully, it doesn't even allow you, because that's just the highest that you can possibly get. So don't just cap it at whatever that is. Field of view, most players are doing 105, so just do 105 generally speaking, but I do 100 because I like it more. It actually makes like it zooms in a little bit more. It feels like it can help me aim a little bit better. The console setting is like at like 85 or around there. So if you're used to console field of view, you could put 85, but it will feel really weird. And it's nice to do 105. You feel like you're moving faster. So I would recommend just doing 105. The majority of people on PC are doing 105. Screen bounds and brightness, whatever you like. In here, you can adjust things. This will help you get better frame rates. Certain things are totally not necessary, like shadows and stuff, motion blur. You can turn off pretty much a lot of this stuff if you want to get better frame rate. But that's pretty much up to you how you want to customize this. If you want, you can do it the exact way I do. I have a really good GPU. I have a GTX 1080 Ti, and so I have my settings up decently high here. And I'm going to go down to here. And the volume is, of course, personal preference. Voice chat, turn that off because you're using Discord the majority of the time. You can set your reticle color to whatever you like, which is kind of cool. You don't get that on console. FDS display, you definitely want to turn that on. Text chat, I'd leave that on. And, if you opt into local chat and stuff, it can be nice because you can talk to people at the tower, help you find groups, meet friends and stuff. But that's it. I mean, that's it for the settings and stuff. Once you get in, make sure to hop in and jump around. One thing I recommend is to, experience how cool it is to move around so freely and move so fast. Like normally on console, you can't even do stuff like that, like turn around and slide backwards. It's not really a thing that you see too often, but that kind of movement is pretty cool. And of course, having a higher frame rate is always nice. I highly recommend to have a big mouse pad. This is something you'll see very, very common from a lot of players. They'll have big mouse pads. I have a big mouse pad. Majority of people have big mouse pads. And to play on a low sensitivity. The low sensitivity is nice for coming from console, and it's, again, really good for your aim. So just make sure you're at least starting, using that as a starting point. If you want to, with time, you can raise your sensitivity. Or if you're used to playing other games with a high sensitivity, go ahead and do so. But it really will help sharpen your aim with time if you learn to play the lower sensitivity. Because what you want to do is actually use arm movement for big strokes. Like if you're moving from one side to another, like if I need to look to my right, if there's someone in this doorway, I'll use my arm to move right here, and then I'll use my wrist to adjust and land my shots appropriately. I don't want to use my arm to aim. I'm not using my arm to aim right now. I'm using my wrist to aim because your wrist movement is much more precise. You can move so much more incrementally, like between this line, back and forth, up and down. And so you want to aim with your wrist, but move around with your arm. My arm pulls me from side to side, and you want to make sure that your look sensitivity is pretty low, and that really helps a lot with that. So what I'm going to do right here is an exercise called the wave. Now this is a good exercise to sort of get a feel for what your sensitivity is, because again, your sensitivity is more than just your look sensitivity, it's also your DPI. I play on 8 look sensitivity, but 400 DPI. This is very, very low, and this is what my wave is. This is me putting my arm flat on my mouse pad and then looking completely left as far as my wrist will go and looking completely right as far as my wrist will go. So that's my wave movement. It's important to get a feel for what your wave movement is. If your sensitivity is so high that your wave movement looks like this, you need to lower that, okay? You got to lower that. So to summarize, make sure you're playing on a decent setting where your wave looks pretty reasonable. You're looking for about a 90-degree window, generally speaking. You could play a little bit higher, but you want to be really in control of your aim. Your aim is everything. You could actually be terrible at moving around. Like you could be terrible at mechanical movement throughout the map, but if you can aim extremely good, you're going to hit all your shots and you're going to completely destroy people. Even if you walk into walls, it's not a big deal. So your aim is everything. Your aim means so much, and that's why aim is praised so much in mouse and keyboard gameplay. That's why, a lot of people talk about like Shroud and Shroud's crazy aim. Well, that's because Shroud has played mouse and keyboard his whole entire life, and he's an extremely good CSGO player, and that translates into all the other games he plays because he is very, very good at aiming. And so you want to make sure to take your aiming very serious. You want to have a decent mouse pad, a quality mouse, a decent DPI. If you go to this website right here, this is called onwinning.com. If you look this up, you'll find so much different settings here: CSGO Pro setups, Fortnite setups, Overwatch, Dota 2. This has a lot of setups of professional players within certain games. Overwatch is the closest game comparison to Destiny 2 because it's first person. And you can see here sort of what mouse DPIs people use and what settings they use, what monitors they use, what resolutions they use. And you can compare what the pros use, and you can sort of build your setup and how you want to adjust your things according to that. That way you're using empirical data instead of just listening to my opinion. You don't want to just listen to the opinion of one person or a couple people. It's much better to pull all this data here. You can see hundreds and hundreds of pro players, and the majority of them play on 800 DPI. I, however, play on 400 DPI. Choose 400 or 800 in my opinion. It's really the best choice, and then you can adjust your in-game sensitivity to whatever you like. So I would go from there and use whatever setups you see here that you like the most. And so those are all my tips and tricks. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash the like button. I appreciate all the likes on this video. And if you have any questions, please comment down below. I will answer at least a few of the comments below. And if your comment doesn't get responded to and you have a burning question, something you really need to be answered, definitely come by the live stream and I will 100% answer your question while I'm live streaming. I've been streaming a lot of hours lately, doing roughly about 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. So, come by. I've got lots of free time while I'm helping people in comp. So make sure to come by and ask any questions you have as you're trying to acclimate to PC. And welcome. And hope you enjoy your time on PC. It's pretty fun. It's pretty cool over here. We got lots of frames and such, and a lot of sweat lords too. So stay away from comp unless you got a buddy like me to help you through it. So that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.